Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPclub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPclub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPclub.lv today and get a generous 200% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. And make sure to use code ECSI at sign-up. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPclub.lv. Visit VIPclub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPclub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Dawg and Desperados Fantasy Football Show number 2, take 2, Friday, July 28, 2023. Raving reviews from week 1 from Hall of Famer, NFFC, NFBC, Mr. Shawn Childs. As we did more of an intro, a little bit about Shawn, what he's been doing the last 20 plus years, his take, his expertise writing projections in fantasy football and baseball. And we broke down some players. We just threw some names out, little serve and volley, broke down some quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and then ended with Bijan Robinson and Jamar Gibbs. Since then, few injuries or injury scares. Yesterday, Jalen Ramsey. A couple days ago, Naheem on a jet ski, just sitting there minding his business, and someone whacks him up for the year. Now fighting for $2.5 million. Sounds like the Colts don't want to pay him. And of course, everyone cringed. Joe Burrow, who was wearing a black sleeve on the right calf at practice yesterday, rolls out and just comes to a limp. And everyone that's doing the draft champions, whether it's in the NFFC, whether it's the underdog, DraftKings, playing for the big stakes there. Wow. The domino effects if Joe Burrow was out for the season or even part of the season, with Jamar Chase going as early. I've actually seen him go 1 in a few drafts, but sitting in that 2 to 3 spot. T. Higgins, late second round pick or the start of the third. So big domino effects there. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to speculate. And, there's 10 million doctors now on Twitter, so everyone is speculating. But we're going to talk a little bit about everything. The goal here is, of course, to have Shawn come on through August to get you up to speed in the drafts, what to look at, maybe do some juggling, projection-wise, all that good stuff there. And then have them break down maybe a underdog draft, a DraftKings draft, and we'll get everyone ready for Labor Day. And before I bring them on, shout out to our new sponsor, VIPclub.lv. Always use ECSI at the desk as you are signing up. Tell them JD sent you there. Shout out to Joseph Shea, Cade Horton, and of course Ben. The men behind the desk, the dream team, the summer of 2023, doing all the clips and editing. So good show ahead of us. Any questions, guys, you can jump on in and just type away, get those going. But without further ado, let's bring them in, the one and only Mr. Shawn Childs. Afternoon, sir.
Well, I am the Desperado.
CC's Desperado, Cape Cod Desperados, established in 2004 in the NFBC. Thought it was important to have a moniker, and you are the Dawg, and I think you picked up that thing with I don't know, Bruce Lee somewhere along the line. I'm not 100% sure where that came along, but it's a pretty good tie in there. So kind of excited about the name of the show.
I absolutely. Yeah, I think it was Bruce. I was actually talking to Bruce. He sent us a text last week and said he loved the show. And shout out to Brian Gaskell. What is up, Brian? Mr. Cam Young, puking away, will not be playing on the weekend. Shout out to Marty Lowe. Marty, roll tide. You'll be getting ready in 5 weeks here. Shout out to Joe Shea and Fanatic Sports as they're rolling in right now. Everyone yesterday cringed. The naysayers. That's why we don't draft early. As Joe Burrow gets taken off on a cart. I sent you a text. I sent you the video. What was your initial thoughts?
Whenever you first see it, I mean, you think, oh my God, I drafted him early, got a bunch of teams, and I'm only drafting, $10 and $25 teams in best balls right now, DraftKings and Underdog, and I'm, you're trying to win a big prize, and you have your share of Burrow, and he goes high enough, and I definitely, I'm a big fan of Chase, but you saw later on, you look at the comments and you try to get the insight of what really is going on. So eventually it came out, calf strain or something like that. And then you look at the calendar in like 6 weeks, you would think he would be okay, but hopefully it doesn't linger. It does create possibly a buying opportunity where he might slide in some drafts right now. So, but will Chase or Higgins slide? I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen anything. I actually haven't started any new draft in the last couple of days, so I don't know if they've moved to 5 or in the middle of the third round. So I think I would still buy. You're looking for a home run, and we'll see what happens, see what the news comes out. But we're going to have before September 1st, we're probably going to have a major injury or two that's going to really get people frustrated of, like you said, of why drafting early, and hopefully I don't end up with that player. And I had him 2 years ago. I had ETN on 75 of 150 underdog teams. So needless to say, you're in survival mode. Probably got back a third of my money that year. But if he would have played well where he was going, I would have probably been helpful. But I went back last year and picked him up in 128 out of 150. So, and he did not reward me at the finish line, but he played better than his ADP probably.
And Jim Christie says, why I won't draft early. LOL. Yes, Mr. Christie. I can give you some good stories about drafting early. A bazillion years ago, Jules McClain, Jim, who you know very well, one of the pioneers early in the NFFC, went box to wire drafting early. And identified a few players, core players, and just lapped the field by like 300 points. And then Mr. Childs here in the Randy Moss year, same thing, lapped the field, 300 plus box to wire there. So the advantage is if you are ahead of the curve, ahead of the game, and have identified people that are going a lot later in June and July versus August and all the steam, all the news coming out where they just get pushed. Last year, Michael Pittman, Gabe Davis, just two to name. This year, the clear guy, in my eyes, that just can't stop flying up the chart, Sean, Calvin Ridley. I mean, right now, middle of the third, you and I were talking backstage. I know what he can do. I saw it at Alabama. He's breaking ankles right now. Full year off. Are you buying the sizzle, or you looking elsewhere and grabbing the steak somewhere else?
In a lot of these early drafts and their more best ball formats, I've come out of the first 4 rounds 2-2, and that when I'm picking at the back end position, you really have the opportunity to go 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, or go 2-2, and the same thing. The opportunities on the 3-4 turn are pretty good to go 2 backs or 1-1. So a lot of times Ridley is making it to the back half of the draft. So I've ended up with Ridley a lot. And I still think that his value will go higher. I project him, I know we talked offline about Chris Olave, but I have him probably in that range because I think Jacksonville is a rising offense. He didn't really make as many big plays as you thought. When I was looking back at, because like Jacksonville only had 3 completions over 40 yards last year. So I thought Ridley getting back, but he only had this time with Atlanta over the, 3+ seasons. He only played 5 games in the 4th season. He only had 7 catches over 40 yards, but Matt Ryan probably had to get the ball out quickly. They had Julio Jones. But he still averaged in 2020, 15 3 yards per catch. So he is definitely going to prove that part of the game for Jacksonville. I definitely have him rated ahead of Christian Kirk, and I think the gap is wider than most people and I'm projecting. I think the over-under in some of those sports books for his season yards is only like 870. So I have him at, what do I have? Ridley at 1096. And I think that my projections for him are conservative. 2020, 90 catches, 1,374 yards, 9 touchdowns. And I could see him being that type of player for the Jaguars this year. Rising offense, developing quarterback. There's a lot to like there. They really spread the ball around, and he's going to command wide receiver 1 targets this year. So I am willing to push him higher to more than like the 12 range of a wide receiver, and it depends on team structure. So I like him a lot, and I'm not, the only one. Everybody, like you said, the fantasy world is on him this year.
Yes, like Michael Pittman, I did last year. Holy shit! I'm still looking for Michael Pittman. Now he's got a potential rookie quarterback there. Shout out to Connor McLaren, big fan of the show. Thank you, Connor, for joining us, and of course, Mr. Christie. Kenny Magner must have probably. I don't want to say choked on a South Point hot dog when he saw the video of Joe Burrow. Of anyone. Cincinnati diehard Bengal there, fam. Enjoying Vegas with the bride at Mr. Vito's I saw the other day. Brian Gaskell asks, best ball round, Shawn. Do we jump? Where do we jump on current free agents, running backs like Zeke, Hunt, Robinson, etc., or too risky?
I think Elliott in DraftKings and Underdog is kind of still a value. They kind of give him to you, and I expect him to come back. Dalvin Cook, I think he falls in a range where I think that if you're drafting your team and you're wide receiver strong and you got 1 or 2 running backs and he slides to, 8 to 10 or 11, depending on the format, that you have to gamble, The same thing with probably Kamara. He's not a free agent, but he probably could get suspended. So I think it comes down to running back structure. What was the other?
Yeah, Zeke, Hunt, and Robinson. Now, Brian, is that James Robinson who's on the Giants, or am I missing?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I probably in the best balls, Hunt probably end up on a team, but I haven't drafted him. I just kind of, I'll wait till there's no reason to add him to a team. Usually I'm going to try to be a little bit more running back strong through the first 10 rounds where I have 3, possibly 4. And then I might if I drafted Bijan Robinson, I'll try to handcuff him as my 5th guy, especially in Underdog. Underdog, I'll typically only draft 5 running backs, and DraftKings, he'll come out with 6. So Robinson, he still has to prove he can do something. So I guess that, if you wanted to handcuff for Barkley and he looks like he's going to make the team, but I would probably wait for him. But Elliott looks like he's kind of the free square where he's going to probably do something. He played well enough last year where, he's going to score touchdowns, get some yards, and kind of get in the way. I think he goes back to Dallas, but I don't know for sure. And Cook, remains a wild card, but my bet, I still sense Minnesota, even though the Twitter world is the Jets. And really that would be for Breece Hall, it would kind of be a disappointment, but I think Hall's a pretty good player, and I think he'll be fine.
It sounds like, I don't know if he's following Twitter. It seems like he's got a good posture going on. We do know there's a contract waiting for him in Minnesota. That would be the easiest to come back. Doesn't have to learn a new system. Knows all the players there. Has a decent team. No Rodgers this year. No Brady this year. The NFC pretty wide open after Philly and San Fran. Maybe trying to squeeze a couple extra dollars out of the Jets. Aaron Rodgers takes a $35 million pay cut. I'm hearing speculations that, the Jets are a little leery of Hall, and their schedule to start the year is not easy. So, more of an insurance, maybe an ease Hall back where you can lean on Cook the first 4 to 6 weeks. Does that sound kind of sort of legit there, Mr. Childs?
He looks like he's working hard, and he sounds like he's progression. And it's not like last year Dobbins kind of was trailing, and we saw Dobbins when he got to the season, he was limping and he didn't look right. There was something going on. He had that big break. He looked better at the end of the year. So I think the reference point for a lot of people coming off the injuries is what Dobbins did last year. So everybody has their different work ethic, and then they respond to injuries different. I think Hall is going to be okay. I originally I had him tapered down in September, and then the last second edition I bumped him up a little bit. And I know the news he went on the pup list would be my naturally to back off again, but I waited. This last one I kind of left him in the same spot, so I'm waiting to see what happens with the Cook thing. I'm waiting to see what the update. Maybe he comes off the pup list, so he's kind of in a neutral zone. Cook, obviously would help the Jets there, but is it Cook thing being more of a money thing? Is he trying to squeeze more money using Jets as leverage or something like that, where he has no other options? You just never know. But and even Javonte Williams, he's had 11 months to recover, and he's not on the pup list, and he's pretty much discounted. So these running backs, there's pockets of values. And one of the guys I did at the other podcast, he was, I want to wait to see how these players, once they get, the news, and I'm willing to pay a 5th or, 6th round price. And the guy they go in the 8th and 9th, I'm like, well, if you can be ahead of the curve, you can add another player or two to your team possibly and get a discount. So I've been pushing on Williams a little bit in that range. I have the Detroit running back, and so if I come into the situation where, Gibbs in the handcuff running back presented Montgomery, kind of been taking Williams, shooting for the upside, and Pete things. So I don't know. They're difficult situations, those running backs coming off injuries.
I am starting to buy in on the Javonte Williams, but I was in a draft earlier this week, and I got Williams gifted to me, but I was at 9-4, and at 9-3 the guy sniped Pirine, the earliest I've seen him. I want Williams, but I definitely want Pirine. I think he's going to do well there. Had flashes in Cincinnati, now moves on. Sean Payton, we know what he has done successfully with running backs and passing to the running backs. With a Javonte Williams, if you're getting the discount there, are you quick to try to get the handcuff there with Pirine?
I am not. I think that the early ADP is based on Williams being back later than expected for people and betting on Pirine. Pirine's a big back. He looks pretty well, and he caught some passes, in Cincinnati, and, had 3 down ability, but he's, Williams, he's going to be he's probably going to get 2/3 of the action when he's healthy. Right. So Pirine should be, gapped, 3 or 4 rounds behind him, and they were pretty much getting drafted about the same. So if I'm going to gamble, I'm going to gamble on the player that's most likely has the highest upside. I'm not going to back up. When you're doing a basketball event, it's a little different. And I'm like, that I'm more in a basketball mode right now because I'm doing those other drafts, and you're playing for the season long, where your season long, the handcuff might be more important because you're submitting a starting lineup. So those parameters are a little bit different for me, and I don't have a mental picture, but I would prefer them to be a little separated. And that might happen if Williams moves to 6 and Pirine's 10, because he might back up, if Williams is, they said he's good to go for week 1. So, I'm right now, I would fade Pirine based on where he's going, because it's too close for me.
I'm going to change gears here, and you have your stats in front of us. You can stop me at any point. What I'm going to try to do, we got a ton of people watching right now. Anyone with any more questions, feel free to type them in. I will throw them to Shawn as we go. Drafting. Next week, maybe we'll break down an underdog draft that you have completed. The following week, maybe we'll do a DraftKings. But let's change gears. Tuesday's August 1st. We're talking regular season. All the NFFC guys know about the 3rd round reversal. If you're not familiar with the NFFC, Snake draft 1 to 12, 12 to 24. Well, the 25th pick gets rewarded back to the number 12. So it goes back 12 to 1, and then it's just regular snake all around. Talk about the first round off the top of our heads. Jefferson, consensus number 1. You were seeing McCaffrey at 2. You're seeing now people saying, before yesterday, obviously, a lot of chases also at number 2. So flip-flop those two. Cooper Kupp coming off an injury. That, to me, I have a hard time grasping. We'll get to that. Then the Kels. I always say this. If you didn't invite me to your wedding, don't expect me to be there for the funeral. I have not been a part of this Kels train forever. I cannot see drafting Kels in the 4th or 5th pick in a draft there. Then in comes a Tyreek Hill. Then people are moving in the Diggs of the world. Austin Eckler, another running back. Bijan Robinson, rookie. You got the numbers in front of you. Go through Shawn Childs' thought process for the first round.
Well, I mean, the two front receivers are pretty impressive, and I have Chase and Jefferson really, really close. And basically my thought with Chase with Jefferson, the first year Chase was explosive, made big plays. Second year he kind of was, he had that midseason injury, but he kind of worked close to the line of scrimmage. The Cincinnati Bengals offensive line really kind of struggled to get him enough time to make big plays. So I think both pieces to the puzzle come together. So if you ask me if I have Kirk Cousins or Joe Burrow as my quarterback for my wide receiver 1, I'm going to place my bet on Burrow, but not that Cousins has done pretty well making Jefferson a productive player. In addition, Minnesota has added some other quality receiving options. Hawkinson, obviously, in the middle of last year, he's got a full season there. They added Addison in the draft there, Jordan Addison. So their depth looks pretty attractive. So the Vikings going to throw the ball a ton. Burrow is going to, be a really good quarterback, and that offense can be very good, and they improve their offensive line. So I think they're close. And I think Jefferson will probably score more touchdowns in last year. And I think, the bottom line with those two, which one is going to be the explosive guy at the end of the year. So it's a coin flip. As far as McCaffrey, I know you're kind of more in the fade category, but we play fantasy football. And we saw, like in the early days, Brian Westbrook, great pass catcher, but we always thought he had risk. And how can you take him in the second round or whatever? Because, the injury risk. But at the end of the year, he makes it through and stays healthy. McCaffrey just has that skill set where he can catch the ball. He makes big plays. He scores touchdowns. They're going to rotate some, Elijah Mitchell in there, but he has injury risk too. But if McCaffrey's healthy, I just did something on the fade list. I mean, the last 6 years, the one running back has gained over 2,000 combined yards, and it's beat all wide receivers. So that most likely that the best running back is the potential to outgain Jefferson and Chase in yards. He's going to add in the catches, and most likely the touchdowns from elite running back has a chance to outdo him too. So they're realistically, they used to be the first players off the board, those type of McCaffrey things. So I think that in some sort of formats, I think you can, if you're doing multiple teams, you can kind of get off them. But if you get picked 3 or 4, I would probably stay on them, because I'm not, I'll let him beat me. I mean, I've had McCaffrey the year. The next year he got hurt. I had Saquon Barkley. The next year he got hurt. Then next year I got Dalvin Cook was moving up, and he was like the second back. I'm like, there's no way I'm taking him. I took Devontae Adams. I'm not getting the hot back the previous year. So, but Jacobs is the hot back from last year. So, but McCaffrey with the trade, it's a great offense and stuff like that. So I'm on him. So, any questions before I move to the next?
No.
All right. So then, as far as Kupp, great player. He's coming off an ankle injury. I think that he should be fine. It's not like a torn ACL or something like that. Runs good routes, gets open. The Rams really don't have great option behind him. He's still going to have the targets. My question with him is that, the offensive line isn't what it was. So his catches, I think, are going to be, shorter. And I'm not 100% sure, that he's going to have explosive touchdowns. So I have him actually rated at the 6th receiver just because of the back off in yards and touchdowns. So I like him. I'm not going to dismiss him. Tyreek Hill, kind of a more explosive receiver, really like what Miami's doing, really kind of question the quarterback whether he can stay healthy. And Hill didn't score last year. So, but he looked really good, good in that offense. So I think he continues to play well. So, you figure Cup's probably more safer in catches, where Hill's probably could have more explosive games, kind of a coin toss. When we get to Travis Kelce, what can you say? He's been, he's a 100-point edge at tight end, the biggest edge at any position. When will it end? We're not sure. You think I used the Tony Gonzalez when he played for at the end of his career after age 33. Probably had, averaged 800 yards and, plenty of catches and stuff like that, and scored some touchdowns. I think Kelce probably has a better quarterback and a better offense and a better opportunity. So kind of think that I'm not going to avoid him this year, even though he's getting drafted higher, because in the early draft season, I think you can take advantage of some other positions. So it all comes down to style and format with him. It does get funky if you take him and Mahomes and now you're chasing running back and wide receiver out. But, who's to say that you couldn't take Kelce with Mahomes and Sky Moore and Rashid Rice late? And you might only have to hit on one of those. But if you hit on both as like a flex, a wide receiver 3, you kind of hit on a gap. So it's kind of an interesting dilemma with that. Eckler, 2 great years in a row. Scored more touchdowns than you would have thought the last 2 years. You really like Hay-Bear. Expect big things. They're going to throw a ball a ton. Eckler's going to catch a bunch of balls. The only thing is, sometimes when these guys have 2 really good years, especially a running back, can they have that third good year? And I've taken him enough times in the best ball because he has a range of like 6 to 10 or whatever, depending on what people like, and so you're taking him in multiple spots, but you kind of just taking him because he's good. But kind of in the back of my mind, I feel as though he might catch me this year. And there's not really a great handcuff to him on the Chargers where you think he took another running back and he can catch a lot of balls, or there's somebody else that could be a really early down runner. So it's going to kind of divide it up between a couple, and they have to, kind of perform. So, but Eckler is, you just take him because scored 375 fantasy points last year. He's really the top scoring running back, I believe, or really the top 2 over the last 2 years. So pretty impressive guy. That gets down to the wide receivers, the back end, it's just what you're looking for a little bit. You got the Diggs, really kind of disappointing in the playoffs, how he went in the offseason, but he looks motivated back. He can catch 100 plus passes. He can catch 120 passes. He needs to score a few more touchdowns to kind of match the potential of like a Chase or Jefferson, because I think either one of those could pop one year. So A.J. Brown definitely has the scoring potential. He always looks mispriced. I think last year I had one of those in DraftKings, like his over-under was 6.5 touchdowns for the year. Pretty low. He went by that pretty easy. And this year that number is not much higher. I think that's still a pretty good value there. Just needs to stay healthy. That offense is really good. Good offensive line, run the ball well. Plenty of time for Hurts. No complaints. Robinson, rookie running back, just slides into the right situation where a team ran the ball like 550 times last year. Quarterback's going to probably drill out 100 of those. That still leaves 450 for the top 2 running backs. So I think, Robinson's going to be pretty impressive, especially with his catches. I just don't think Atlanta throws enough where he can kind of be a difference maker in catches, maybe in that 50 range. So I don't know. Did I miss somebody else in there? So
no, then again, it becomes the flavor of the week, or how you're looking to build. Especially in that back end. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver for Dallas, who I had last year in a few spots, and at the end, I was expecting more. I don't know what it is, but at the end of the year, I looked at his stats and I was like, wow. I didn't even think he had that type of year there. Thoughts on CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, he kind of struggled like to get rolling out of the gate last year, and then he was one of the best receivers in the game down the stretch. He really kind of pumped up the volume. The Dallas secondary receivers really didn't do much. I mean, Schultz was pretty competitive, and Pollard added to that offense. But, does Cooks, command more looks? Does Gallup improve? Does Tolbert even become a factor? But, pretty much when you're looking at that team, Lamb's still the guy. He just commands the ball over the short area of the field, can make big plays. He should score touchdowns. Pretty good chemistry with the quarterback. So he's just a solid, one of those, wide receiver ones that you want to be a building block, especially if you're a yellow sticker guy out of the gate over the first 2 rounds in some formats.
Picking from the back again, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, those are usually the corner pieces. Last night we were talking backstage. One of our colleagues started Kels Mahomes. Kels slid all the way to 12. He took Mahomes at 13 there. So it's again in the NFFC format. Do you want to get involved early into the elite quarterbacks where it's 6 points for passing touchdowns and 6 points for rushing touchdowns as well? I wanted to get around a guy that I'm seeing sliding a little and had some amazing video clips this week on social media. Mr. St. Brown from Detroit, and after practice goes to the jugs gun, one-handed catches 200 balls, dropped the first one, catches the next 199 of them, and then does like 20 push-ups because of the one drop. Thoughts on St. Brown?
Yeah, really, he probably that your comment on Lamb last year, he probably underperformed a little bit of expectation. He had that right around when they played the Patriots. He had that little bit of injury, and he kind of lost some momentum. But he's that guy that's can catch 7 to 10 balls in a lot of games. His yards per catch are going to be lower than most, and not sure he's going to get elite touchdowns. But he is a guy that can potentially in his career he's going to have 120 catches in a season. If he can get his yards per catch up there, he's going to push higher. He can score touchdowns. You just need Detroit. Last year, the problem with them is, they scored how many rushing touchdowns? They were really good in close, and they can finish off drives. If that backs off a little bit, that could create some more scoring chances for their wide receivers. And out of the gate, we've got St. Brown, the second and third receivers, Williams is out for a while. And then I think Gibbs is a natural, second option in the passing game. So St. Brown, they're going to have to use in the middle of to move the ball. And he's the guy that, gets open. He catches most of the stuff when he's gets thrown to him. And he's going to be active a lot of weeks.
As you progress down the second round and you got your numbers in front of you, and then again, 3 RR, if you just wanted to go straight snake there. We were talking backstage and we talked a little about Ridley. My question to you, I think, is there's some wide receivers in the second round that obviously go before Ridley. You got Jalen Waddle, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, and then that third round where those wide receivers, the DK Metcalfs of the world. I'm a big Jerry Jeudy guy this year. Calvin Ridley now coming right up into there. Is there a soft spot, or is there? Let me rephrase that, Shawn. Is there a stay away wide receiver or two in that third round that you can help us out here to say, why you'd be fading them, or someone at least for us to take a look at to maybe to pump the brakes on?
Yeah, like I mentioned Chris Olave. It's not like when I'm saying like fading them, I just think that they're priced above a level where I think they project, so like it's, Olave, if he's the 12th or 13th receiver off the board, kind of, I have him projected for the 19th receiver, 85 catches, 1,163 yards, 5 touchdowns. I just, he gets drafted at 12. I mean, obviously great rookie season. He has an Achilles issue that looks to be minor, but sometimes that stuff just kind of, can go sideways and lead to a torn Achilles or something. And I'm not saying that he has anything close to that, but something to be aware of. But, I just think that like Ridley should go in front of him. I think that Metcalf, that offense is going to throw the ball a lot. He has the potential to fit that. He could get more catches. He could get double-digit scores. he's been a top 15 receiver like 3 years in a row. And he gets drafted in that same range, but he could push to be the wide receiver ones. Probably the other wide receiver that's been a steady, 100 catch guy and really like, and just you kind of like look at him like, is Keenan Allen, coming off an injury. But, if you like the quarterback, you got to like the receivers. If you're afraid of the receivers, why do you like the quarterback? And, and that's the problem with Mike Williams and, Allen. Allen's been pretty, after his rookie year, he's been pretty healthy, but, he did get people last year and he did okay at the end of the year. So, Allen, he's kind of a similar player to Amon St. Brown, where you think that maybe scores 7 touchdowns, 100 catches and short yards per catch, but Brown's moving up, better opportunity, nobody behind him, where, Hebert is going to mix up the ball and pass it to Eckler a lot and his other receivers. So it's a little defined difference. So I think if Allen slides where, I think he does more so than he should, he's kind of okay. The other one, Higgins reach that level where he doesn't miss those couple of games and he progresses where he gets those 80, 85 catches, 1,200, 1,300 yards and gets double-digit scores. His profile, it fits. He definitely can push further, but, he's just kind of in the safe zone. And, if you get Jefferson, maybe I want a piece of Cincinnati. If I got Chase, maybe I want to try to get the triple hook up and get Burrow. So, those are the kind of things that I think about when the receiver. I think the other one that probably receiver that kind of you just look at him is like Amari Cooper, great career, really outperformed expectations last year. With Watson should be better, but when the fantasy playoffs and the champions have been around, he's kind of been a guy that kind of puts up the clunker. He had these games in Dallas were amazing, especially at home, and then he would just kind of disappear. So, I think I'm neutral. But they're really the top 18 receivers. You're splitting hairs. Olave, Michael Thomas is somewhat of a factor, probably more than most. But I got him in 19th. But what's the difference between him and the 12th or 13th spots and maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns? So or a few more catches. So it's really close. And you got to bet your opinion on who you like, but you also have reasons why you might not like somebody, and you got to pay attention to the sidebar news with injuries.
I'm going to ask you 2 more wide receiver questions, then we'll switch gears. I'm going to circle back. I've always wanted a part of the Roger number 1 wide receiver. I never got Devontae Adams. Shame on me. And then I watched him last year, and I was like, Jesus, damn, this guy is good. And I swore it on week 15, 16, I was going to get him this year. There was no questions about it. And no, I'm not going to even get in there. Yesterday came out that he wants out of Las Vegas already. That's for a whole nother weekend show there. Buying the Wilson, he's elite. He had a great career. Loved him in college. Good rookie season. Now he brings in Aaron Rodgers. It's a hefty tax. You're going to have to get him at that, the 1-2 turn. They're not giving him to you. Are you in or out on Wilson?
At the beginning of the second round, I guess I'm kind of neutral, because when you're doing a lot of these drafts, the running backs, the potential, like the Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, and the backs that could potentially be elite have been discounted. So now I'm not really comparing him to the other receivers in some of these drafts, because I might have a receiver in the first round, unless I'm going to double. So I have to compare him to the running backs. And right now, I think some of the backs have been, fall there. But at the right price, Rodgers is going to make him great. He's going to get plenty of passes. The guy gets open. He just looked like he was going to be special last year. Just in a great situation, just needs to stay on the field. He's, he doesn't have that proven elite resume, but he has a good season, the same as, I think him and Olave finished almost back-to-back at like 23, 24, 24, 25 and wide receiver scoring last year. I think that he could push higher. I like the quarterback obviously better. But I have no problem drafting him. You're looking for home runs. He fits the home run thing. It's just a matter of, do I, what's my other pick, and what am I looking and comparing him to? So, he's an interesting guy for sure.
And we'll talk, no Tom Brady. And I know you were a big fan of Mike Evans. I know you're a big fan of Chris Godwin. Now, maybe Trask, maybe was it Baker Mayfield? Uh, 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 Tampa is not going to be good this year. We all know that, and they're not in the second and third round this year. They're obviously at a discounted price. What would you say to everyone watching and listening that's getting ready for their drafts, their local drafts, in less than a month? Your thoughts on the two Tampa wide receivers?
When you're looking at those two receivers, you're like, man, they's got some. Evans 1,000 yards. I think almost every season in the NFL's. Has the size to score a touchdown, double-digit scores. Godwin, pretty productive when he's been healthy. He missed a little bit of time. These guys had a ton of catches last year, but Brady threw the ball 750 times. They got Baker Mayfield. They could throw the ball 200 less times, or 150, 175. There is going to be a huge drop off in opportunity and passing attempts there. So that's a real big factor for me. I really tapered both of them back, and what do I have? Godwin 78 catches, 894, 4 touchdowns. I mean, Brady behind that offensive line, he had to get the ball out so quick. He was gaining short yards per catch. Now you're going to throw Baker Mayfield in there, or a rookie quarterback. It doesn't have the same buzz for me. At some point, you kind of look like, oh, they're wide receiver threes. It kind of steals, but I don't know. I mean, I'll mix them up a little bit in the best ball. Probably not going to have a high percentage of them. I'll be looking for other players, but they could outperform expectations. But for now, they're in the neutral list because they fall in a range with some other pretty good productive receivers that I like their offenses better. But I am not fighting for either one of them in drafts this year.
Already 45 minutes deep, Shawn. Geez, again, I told you we could talk for hours here. We're going to close today with some quarterback talk. NFFC, 6 points for passing and rushing. Most other leagues are 4 points for passing. We're seeing something in the NFFC unprecedented. It's always been wait on a quarterback. And now you're seeing 4 quarterbacks go in the first 2 rounds. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and then Joe Burrow. And this was obviously before yesterday. Still on last night's drafts, Burrow was going as the 4th quarterback. Then there's that second tier. And I guess it's what you value and how you value. Is it Lamar? Is it Justin Herbert? Is it Trevor Lawrence? Or this year's sexy guy, Justin Fields? Thoughts on the top 4 quarterbacks and then that next tier. And then on your rankings, which everyone can go to fantasyanalysis.substack.com. Sign up for Shawn for pennies on the dollar on a monthly fee. Get all these projections, get behind the paid channel, and get his daily reports as well. Someone like Kirk Cousins. But let's talk about the top 4, Shawn.
I mean, Allen, Hurts, and Mahomes, and pretty impressive years. I mean, Mahomes is the one that's kind of relying on Kelsey. I think we talked about it a little bit last week, and he needs the secondary receivers. He's just a gamer, and he made everybody around him better last year. Really got some huge production out of the quarterback position, 12 touchdowns. So, I think Mahomes kind of is actually going to come back a little bit this year, but not a guarantee. Hurts has 3 good passing options, runs the ball a ton, scores a lot on the ground. He's missed a couple games in back-to-back years. If he could play 17, it would be even more impressive. Allen, I think he's been the best first and second in quarterback scoring 3 years in a row. The Diggs connection, improve the tight end. Maybe James Cooks can help out of the backfield, catching the ball a little bit more, make them a little more explosive, especially if he could hit on a short pass and a couple of big plays there. Will Gabe Davis improve with their 3rd receiver, so that he's still kind of relying on a lot of his separation by running the ball. So is what it is. And obviously Joe Burrow has got the 2 great receivers, threw in another tight end, and he's got even some secondary 3rd and 4th receivers that will be helpful as well. And last year they did a really good job of throwing to their running backs close to the goal line, and they scored. Especially they had the midseason. I had that Mixon game he had that 55 points, he had there, and P. Ryan was pretty impressive, filling in for Mixon a little bit. So, they are what they are. They have the talent around them, and they're separators. Now, you have to get to that next group and decide who you're going to pin the tail on and which one's, going to be the guy that's the best value that could emerge, or which one is going to be the kind of the breakout and potentially get in that top four this year.
So I guess it's, what do you like? Vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, whatever it is. So, I'm high on Herbert. I like the Lamar factor. I like the fact that he's paid, he's happy, he's healthy. He has Mark Andrews. They added OBJ. I am very high on Zay Flowers. Is Bateman going to be healthy? Duvernay, J.K. Dobbins. They added, who they had? Fournette. They got the Gus Bus. I'm very high on Lamar. I think he's finding a soft spot in the drafts there. The sexy Trevor Lawrence. And then, of course, Justin Fields, who they're cloning as this year's Jalen Hurts. Well, I don't see A.J. Brown. I see DJ Moore over there. Yes, Cole Kmet, who just got paid, came on late there. They do have Mr. Mooney, Herbert in the backfield. What is your thoughts? What do your numbers say on Justin Fields?
Fields, I have him 3,200 passing yards, 880 rushing with 27 combined. He actually rates as the 12th quarterback, which is below, there's just so many guys in between. And the key for him is, I think I have, he missed a couple of games last year. I might have, I don't have that on the right screen where, I might have him at 90% rather than 95 or something, maybe missing one game. So he would go a little higher. But, if you're doing in the NFFC and you have to put in a silent, he is going to have some explosive games. I definitely think he could push a lot higher in the passing yards. He said he was going to pass for 4,000 yards, or he'd be the first Bears quarterback to ever pass for 4,000. Maybe he makes a run at it. His receiving core is definitely better. He has shown in the past in college that he can throw the ball. I think he is talented. What he lacked last year is that his receivers really weren't, with Mooney out and stuff like that. They weren't really good enough to propel him, especially in the red zone, to finish drives. And I think the structure with DJ Moore, Kmet scored 7 touchdowns last year. He's kind of that, you look at him, he's like a 600, whatever he did last year. I think it was a little less than that. But anyways, you look at him. But if they threw the ball a lot more, they threw it 377 times. If they threw it 500 times, I mean, that wide receiver is going to be pretty good. But DJ Moore is coming off a team that would, threw the ball more. So his stuff's going to back up a little bit. Maybe he's only an 80 catch guy rather than 90 or something like that. So, you got to evaluate all of that. So I think that his structure is a lot better, and he's potential to push a lot higher. So even though I have him rated 12th, I have in the best ball formats, because I know he's explosive, I have him a lot. I've taken him with DJ Moore and tied him up because, he's the guy that could win you the whole thing, especially if he hits late in the year. And he's going to have those games where he could score 40 points. Might be a little different managed, but he was really impressive that stretch when he played New England, Dallas, and Miami. And the Miami was the big win for me game, but, he just has to stay on the field. So I like him a lot. I think I'm conservative, even though I'm 12th. I definitely would take him in front of Dak Prescott, in front of Aaron Rodgers, because of his running ability. And then Rodgers, I'm not so sure. I think he's going to be solid and have a high floor, but be steady. So the other guys, Lamar Jackson. If you ask me right now about Lamar Jackson and Fields receiving options are probably, to me, a little bit better. I know he gets, Lamar has the tight ends. He's going to throw a ton, but Bateman has to stay on the field, and, you get DJ Moore. Mooney kind of has already done it a little bit, coming off an injury. Claypool, I think, not sure he's 100%, but maybe he does it. Kind of bet. I did a prop bet. I bet the under on the 550 yards there because I didn't think he was healthy, but we'll see what happens there. So he just needs to throw it a little bit more. Explosive runner. If you coin tossing me, I'd rather have Fields than Lamar based on draft value right now. And that's not any slight to Lamar, because I think he will bounce back this year.
Well, I'm going to let you close. I asked you this question a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to let you close with this. I was like, I'm not spurned. Big, huge fan in college. Actually had a few shares of him in his early days with the Texans. Obviously, the off the field issues are now behind him. Basically, had 18 months off. I, with the eye test, didn't like what I saw last year. New, fresh year. Nick Chubb, Njoku, you talk to Mari Cooper. They bring over Elijah Moore. Sell me on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, he's just he's the he to me, that he falls in that soft spot range for me, and that just he's he runs just enough and scores enough on the ground where he's competitive. He has better weapons than he did with Houston. I don't have the article in front of me, but the last year in Houston, he averaged well over 300 yards over his last seven games, and he had like Brandon. In Hopkins wasn't there. He had Brandon Cooks and Jordan Akins as his tight end, and
who was Will Fuller.
Yeah, Will Fuller. So when you look at it, like he had this impressive run to finish 2020 over 7 games, and he didn't have great receiving options. He has a better running back who potentially could catch a few more balls, but he might score on a couple. But they're going to run the ball better. He's going to steal some rushing touchdowns. He's going to be much better than last year. Mari Cooper has a proven resume, and can he push him to a higher level? I'm not sure. I don't know if there's enough targets going on. Elijah Moore, really disappointment last year, but he flashed in his rookie season, the middle of the year. I don't know what went sideways on him, but fast, quick guy, worked the shoulder. To me, he's a better version of Will Fuller. He does those crossing patterns. Will could go, make those big plays deep. So I think, he kind of makes sense. You added that impressive Cedric Tillman, a rookie receiver, and then you got People Jones, who had a really good year making big plays. And I don't even know how the third and fourth receivers have enough balls. And then he has Njoku coming off a really good year with Brissett throwing the ball, and they threw enough balls to their backup tight end Bryant. So the pieces are there for Watson to really have success. And I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see him be a top 4 quarterback with the overall package. I'm not convinced that the Browns defense, they have a couple of good players. They'll kind of be up and down, and teams are going to score on them a little bit, which creates more fun for their offense. So interesting guy for sure. Probably a guy that like in the best ball formats, I've probably, because he goes like 7th in that other range, I've drafted a lot. I haven't got the Cooper hookup with him because I've probably been more in the Ridley Judy camp there, but I probably should have some Cooper just in case he hits in the end. But I have taken him with, Elijah Moore and Njoku. So I really like, Watson, what potentially he can do. But he does have a lot to prove after struggling last year. But he's young enough where he's, he could be a pretty good quarterback for the Browns for the next 5 years.
Next week, we'll do some quick breakdowns, maybe in some tight ends. We'll check the injury report, and then we'll break down one of your upcoming drafts that you just completed, whether it's Underdog or DraftKings. The scroller's been going the whole time. If people watching and listening, a ton of you guys, I'm not even going to thank everyone because I'm going to miss someone and feel bad. Thank you. Please go follow Shawn on Twitter at Shawn. That's SHAWN_Childs. You can get some of his work at Full Time Fantasy. Go to his website at fantasyanalysis.substack.com. Shawn, closing thoughts, sir.
It's getting showtime where, like you said, I have to translate where the season-long stuff, and I'm going to have to break some news to you right now on the air, and it's going to be disappointing to you. I am going to Las Vegas in September 5th to 11th. So I signed up for one live event on Thursday, and I'm sure I'll have a bunch in the room and be at the Circa for some big events at the FFWC. So, it'll be an interesting September for sure.
Well, I'll make sure that Dave Sharapan gets out there to greet you. Jeffrey Benson. I assume Derek will be around. Some of the VSiN cast of characters will be there. You guys will be outside at the pool, the cabanas, soaking it all in. And I know you from past history. Long sleeve, won't get a suntan, and you'll be up in the room most of the time drafting anyways, right?
Yeah. Trisha will go to the pool, so she'll compensate on that end. So
All right, guys, let me see here. I'm just going to do this justice here. Let me just shout out to Joe Shea, Fanatic Sports, Brian Gaskell, Marty Lowe, Jim Christie, Connor. The list is endless. Stu Bunting. Thank you, guys. Next week, next Friday, 1 o'clock, join us here for show number 3, The Dog and the Desperado. Again, the goal, very simply, will get you through August injury updates, maybe some ADP moves, regular season. We'll talk some underdogs, some DraftKings. Bring your questions for Shawn and myself, and we look forward to it. And if Shawn follows the script, regular season on Thursday or Friday, so we're going to be talking DraftKings Millie, how to win a Millie. Shawn will break down his weekly breakdowns, his team that he's putting together to help everyone. He was in New Orleans last year with 2 tickets to win $3 million and $2 million. Not his first rodeo. He's been to Vegas and California too. I was a part of one of those trips. So everyone, it's going to be a full season of fantasy here with myself and Shawn, the Dog and the Desperado. Everyone, have a great weekend, and we'll catch up to you next week.